fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. This is going to be a fun one with my boy, Pastor Johnny Kelly.
What's up, Joe? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, brother. So we've talked a little bit offline about this subject. It's come up quite a bit, and I'm going to kick it off before we talk about the big problem and even issue of a big challenge to everyone listening. I'm going to read the Christmas rant that I sent back on Christmas Day, December 25th of 2017, and I'm going to read this. This was our most opened email and most responded to email of the entire year in 2017. Here it goes. Here at the Simons household, Christmas is a pretty big deal. If you were anything like us, it's not just a holiday for our family. It's Christmas. We celebrate the birth of Jesus today. Quick, call the news. An American business owner said Jesus and Christmas in an email to his customers and subscribers. Get your torches. Let's burn them. But oh, it gets worse. Our family also stands for the national anthem. We salute the flag. We still say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And we sincerely thank veterans for their service, and we support fishing. Yes. We support veterans, and we support the military, and we support fishing. Can you believe it? Aren't we crazy? What used to describe a patriotic family is now offensive to some Americans. Can you believe how pantsified our nation has become over the last decade or so? It shocks me how many people act like a bunch of babies when it comes to saying things like, Merry Christmas, I pledge allegiance, thank you for your service, and even I love to fish these days. And apparently, you're now supposed to say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas because you might offend someone. What a load of catfish slime. I wonder how many of these offended people remember what Christmas is all about in the first place. And even if they falsely believe it's just some random holiday in December when they exchange gifts and get new stuff, how many people out there actually get offended by the words Merry Christmas? I mean, isn't that kind of silly when you think about it? Do you really think anyone has ever uttered these words after hearing someone say, Merry Christmas? How dare you wish me well? I demand a full retraction of your wishes of merriment at once, right? I mean, it's crazy. So why is this such a big issue? Why are people getting so offended about really everything these days? And why is it that we are so afraid to be ourselves and publicly say things like Merry Christmas on Christmas? And it goes on and on about, I want to read the whole thing. And at the end, I did say, hey, if you are offended by this, I'm finding the PS, or my belief that we should proudly express well wishes in any manner of our choosing, then please save yourself further offense by clicking the unsubscribe button down below. And we did get some unsubscribes. But what was interesting and what I found time and time again, and this is going to kind of tie back into the challenge, is every time that I've been a little bit more bold in my faith than maybe other people have, every time that, like starting UNCHURCHED, every time I've kind of got out of my comfort zone as a Christian, and as a business owner and as someone who has a platform, every time I have been blessed, every time I've seen more abundance come in, every time like good things have happened. Yes, we've lost a few people, but it's crazy. And I'm not talking about just monetary. I'm just talking about like just family unity. Like it's amazing what has happened every time I've done that. And it makes sense, right? Like, can you imagine if you do believe in a God that all of a sudden you go out on your faith and he's going to now punish you and let you fail because you did that? Of course not. So full circle, let's go back to you, Johnny. Let's talk about the problem here. Let's also talk about what Christmas is, because there are a lot of people that might not know. They might think it's just a time that you meet together with your crazy family and exchange gifts. Let's talk about that real quick before we go down this Merry Christmas versus Happy Holidays debate.
Yeah. And by the way, Easter is not about bunnies that lay eggs. Christmas is, obviously Christmas for us is the celebration of the birth of Jesus. It's a celebration of the birth of Jesus, and there'll be people that want to go, well, that he wasn't born in December. Yeah, I get it. Whatever. It's when we choose to celebrate it. Nobody knows exactly when he was born. They have guesses and some educated guesses at the time of year and things of that nature. But we celebrate December 25th, and that's fine.
What does Christmas mean? What the actual word?
The word Christmas, what? I believe it's just more of Christ. But it's a great question. Let me look it up here.
Google it.
What does Christmas mean? Let's see here. The meaning of the word Christmas. Oh, they don't give a meaning.
It's got some.
What does the word Christmas literally mean? The word Christmas in Middle English, Christ Mass. So
Christ Mass, okay.
Literally meaning the Mass of Christ. So celebrating, the Mass of Christ. And so I think the funny part is this, is that that it is, we live in a world that I think is so hypersensitive. We live in a world that is seeking to be offended. I'm just watching these. Everybody's they keep putting on the news about the offense that people are taking from a commercial for a workout bicycle, a Peloton bicycle. Have you seen this? I've
stopped watching the news, but I do still watch CNBC, and I saw that on CNBC.
Yeah, it's a commercial, and whatever.
What happened, by the way?
Nothing. There's nothing. Okay. If you watch the commercial, it's nothing. There's no reason to be offended. It is people seeking to find an offense.
Was it a racial thing or what?
No, it was just a husband or boyfriend gave a workout bike to his girlfriend or wife, and she documented a year of her riding it and how it made her feel so much better. That's the whole commercial. But they're like, he's telling her that she needs to lose weight. Never does. Okay. Never says that at all. She looks upset the whole time. Well, the whole commercial is her talking into a camera saying that she feels good about what she's doing with her life. But beyond all that, it's just, we live in a society that is seeking to be offended. Mm-hmm. At least that's what we're led to believe. In the same way that we're led to believe that massive groups of people get upset when you say Merry Christmas, when most don't. There's a very vocal few that do. And nobody, if somebody said to you, Happy Kwanzaa or Happy Hanukkah, nobody's going to get mad at that. But there is an offense that some people do take to the idea of saying Merry Christmas.
But I've yet to meet one ever who's ever came back to me and even looked or sounded offended, or of course no one's ever said, "Hey, I'm offended by this."
I've had some people that have done that.
Really?
Yeah, I have. Not many, but I've had it happen a couple of times where
what do they say to you?
It's the idea. Well, it's not even that they say something. I've had people like, you're at a restaurant and the waiter says, happy holidays. And I say, hey, thanks. Merry Christmas. And you get that side eye like, oh, you're not supposed to say that. You're not supposed to do that.
I might get fired because I can't offend anybody.
Well, and that's the idea, is you can't offend anybody. It's a universal change that has happened. And it I think directly ties back to a culture of, and I want you to understand where the big deal of this is. The big deal is not, I don't think, in normal, just everyday life, because most places you say Merry Christmas, it's not going to be a big deal. It's every time that I've been looked at sideways, it's been in somebody's place of business. Like, so if I'm talking to a server at a restaurant, I'm where they work. And, it's so the idea of this, the happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas, I believe is significant. The proponents, the people that are all about the idea of saying happy holidays, they want to argue that it's no big deal at all. That people that want to say Merry Christmas are making like a mountain out of a molehill, especially, when the people that say that, if I was to say, hey, I want to say Merry Christmas, and I'm upset at you for telling me I have to say Happy Holidays, and I try to make it a war on Christianity, the people that are about Happy Holidays are going to even dig in deeper and be like, you're crazy. You're just making a mountain out of a molehill. But the problem is that the advocates for the Happy Holidays thing, they want it both ways. They want to dismiss me or you or anybody that wants to say Merry Christmas as hysterical for fighting against, saying Happy Holidays. And hear me, I don't have a problem if you say Happy Holidays. That's totally fine with me. I do have an issue if you have a problem with me saying Merry Christmas, but because, you can't have it both ways. You want to make me look hysterical for fighting this thing, but at the same time, you're relentlessly pushing to rid America of anything that resembles Christianity or Christmas,
which is the problem at hand.
That's the problem. Is that I've never met somebody who is I've never met a Christian who is trying to push Hanukkah away from Jewish people. Like I've never met that person, or somebody who's trying to push away from. I'm fine if somebody says Happy Holidays to me. Just be fine if I say Merry Christmas back. That's the difference. And I think the difference comes from this world that, once again, is looking for offense. And we live in a world where the news or politics try to paint everything as very right or very left, when the vast majority of our country lives somewhere in the middle. I mean, that's where people live. Like if I look at right-wing candidates or left-wing candidates, I'd be hard-pressed to find a whole lot of people that exist on that far extreme of either side. I mean, they're out there, obviously, but almost everybody I know, they lean one way or the other, and maybe they lean more, maybe they're quite a bit, but they're not extremists, if that makes sense. And the problem is that we live in a world that has made it where everything has to be extreme. Like you have to extremely go the opposite direction. Like you can't say Merry Christmas. We live in a world where you have to extremely take a position politically. You have to be way over here or way over here. And the fact is that this world is full of all kinds of people, and Jesus came for all of them. He loves them all, and we are allowed to coexist at the same time and work together. I've been, like I said, I've been wished that Happy Holidays, and they'll give me this sort of sideways look whenever I say Merry Christmas, but the word Christmas has been eliminated by, the majority of schools, my kids.
But they still take Christmas break. They don't call it, or do they call it holiday break? They'll call it winter break.
Okay. They'll call it winter break. They won't call it Christmas break. And it all depends on the classroom and the school as well, but the majority of schools, high schools, universities, they have winter vacation instead of Christmas vacation. The idea of,
heaven forbid we offend someone.
Well, that's the idea is the fact that for me, my whole idea on this is, let's stop being so easily offended. We live in a world that is full of people that are dying, that are hurting, and we get the joy of living, or most people that are watching or listening to this live in America and get the freedoms that come with that. The poorest of the poor in our nation would be the richest 1% in most of the world. If you're homeless in this nation, you are rich in most other nations in this planet. It is amazing what we have here, and and the fact that we seek out reasons to be upset is mind-boggling to me. Like, we seek out a reason to hurt our soul. You know, it's kind of like, here's a good example of it, which is sort of a funny one. Like, the other day I got on like this YouTube wormhole. You ever do that? Like, you start watching YouTube and you end up clicking on different videos, and like all of a sudden you're an hour and a half in, you're like, what happened? Like,
you're watching Blippi.
Yeah, I was watching videos. I like working on cars and stuff like that. I enjoy it. And I was watching car videos, and then all of a sudden I see this one that popped up, and it was like dash cam videos. And, you know, you see like different wrecks and stuff like that. You're like, oh, this is funny. You know, not ones that people get hurt in, but whenever like people do something dumb, you know. And I eventually got to a video that was like a road rage video, and it was like clips of people getting in road rage. And I'm sitting there watching it, and about 3 minutes in, I realized like I'm angry right now. Like, I'm upset. I'm like tense and stressed out because I'm watching and it's making me mad. And I was like, oh, and I turned it off, because it's amazing how I wasn't that way at all, but I was watching this thing, and it just drew me in. And we live in a society that is trying to draw people in to anger, trying to draw people into offense, trying to draw people into picking sides and pitting ourselves against other people. It is what our political system has created. It is what I believe the spiritual nature of our country has led to, as a place that is seeking to be offended. And here's the deal. It is a war on Christianity. Make no offense, it is, and I completely. And beyond that, I think it's more just a war on religious nature in America. You know, if we look at Europe, it is a completely secular society. You know, you go to these giant cathedrals. One of my best friends is a missionary, and he planted a church in Paris, and it is an amazing thing to be able to do. Paris is split up into different like boroughs, almost like New York is, and his borough has like 300,000 people, and his is the only church.
Wow.
The only church. And so the idea of being able to, you go over there, and he told me about it. He's like, you go to these chapels, these big cathedrals that were built hundreds of years ago, and you go there during the week, and it's packed, like slammed. You can't get in. People are going through to take tours. But if you go there during church on Sunday, you could play tag with cannonballs in there, and like you wouldn't hit somebody. It's amazing. And it is a completely secular society that they already fought and won this war against the idea of religion. And it is the idea of what I believe is happening here. But I believe it's a part of this whole idea of like, we need to find something to be upset with. Like, we can't be content. We're not allowed to find contentment, you know, and when somebody does find that contentment, then we look for reasons to bring them down. How many times have we as a nation reveled in the failure of somebody? Like a fall from grace. We love a fall from grace because then we get to build them back up, but we don't only let them get so high because we want to bring them down again. It is this society that is looking for offense. And I think that's where, in my mind, the idea of happy holidays versus Merry Christmas comes from, is that we live in a world that's looking for offense. And so my hope is that I'm fine with you saying happy holidays. I'm not offended at you for doing it. A lot of Christians will get offended if you say happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas. I'm not. You can say it all you want. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, or happy Hanukkah or whatever else.
Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, whatever you want to say. You know, happy Festivus for the rest of us, you know, for all you Seinfeld fans out there.
It's a Festivus miracle.
It's a Festivus miracle. Feats of strength. You know, you got to love it. You know, the airing of grievances. I used to have a Festivus pole, and I'm a pastor, and I put a Festivus pole next to my Christmas tree because I thought it was so funny. And if you don't know what Festivus is, you just got to go watch that episode of Seinfeld. But the truth is that like, I'm fine with you saying that stuff. don't be offended if I say Merry Christmas. And the other side of that is as a Christian, don't be offended that a company does or doesn't say that. My opinion is this, is that I don't want to try and silence anybody on that kind of stuff, because it lets me know. You've just told me where you stand.
Mm-hmm.
You've let me know. It's the idea of, if somebody wants to say something racist or say something off color, all right. Now I know. You're not going to fool me. I know who you are. I know what you stand for. And so if you choose to hide what you believe or what you think to appease, I believe, a very small vocal minority of people, when it comes to, Happy Holidays versus Merry Christmas, then I know where you stand, and I get it. And so I have no problem with you doing it, but just know that it might affect my choices moving forward with who I work with.
I love it. And you mentioned the Europe thing, and I think you're right. I think what scares me is we are kind of going down that path of some of these other countries who have kicked God and certainly Christianity out of their schools and out of companies and out of society completely. Mm-hmm. And I looked it up. I mean, do you know the least sure, I guess the most unchurched country, the country that has the least amount of people that actually would say Merry Christmas and go to church? You know what that is?
No.
Of all the countries in the world is Russia.
Yeah.
A place that certainly you don't, at least as Americans, if there are any Russians listening, I'd love your feedback on this, and hopefully I don't offend you. But certainly in my eyes, when I just think of Russia, I don't think of it right now as a friendly place or a place that you have much freedom or control. Mm-hmm. I mean, they monitor every website you go to. I mean, if you saw the stories from the Olympics, I mean, the people it was crazy. They told him not even on the Wi-Fi because it was all being watched and all their pictures being stolen and downloaded. And it's the country that has the most hacks. I mean, it's not a very trustworthy country. People don't trust each other. And as far as freedom, which is what we really all live for, freedom and fulfillment and happiness, they don't have that much. And this is interesting. They're the least churched or the most unchurched country in the world. And that's kind of what scares me. And I think the challenge, you nailed it, is, if you believe in it, don't get offended. And if you do believe in it, don't be afraid that you might offend someone. Like my email said, I've yet to say that either as the leader of the company or as leader of my family or community, and had someone, get like utterly offended and get mad at me. And it worries me for our kids that, they're growing up in a society where, no one says that. And I told you this story offline. Last year we had Christmas in Georgia, where my wife's family's from. And her brothers came in from New England, and ironically, the first thing they said was "Merry Christmas." We all hugged each other, and one of my wife's brother's wives, so my sister-in-law, had said, "Wow," she's like, we flew down to Georgia from New England, and like it was the first time we'd seen Christmas lights and Christmas trees. And I was like, what do you mean? Like and this was like 2 days before Christmas. It's like, you haven't seen any? She's like, no, like no one in New England, which New England is the least churched area of the country. And she's like, yeah, like no one where we live, celebrates. It's largely just kind of not atheist, but a lot of, Jewish families and big Jewish communities, and no one, it's like it's very rare if you put Christmas lights up on your house or even a tree. And if I guess I don't blame them if no one else did. If you're the only person out of your neighborhood of 100 that was going to put them up, all of a sudden you're this weird minority. And it was just like, it hit me. I was like, wow, because I see just the opposite. I mean, everyone in my neighborhood has lights up and Christmas trees. You see them in the windows at night. And I was just like, wow, I wonder if New England is kind of the future of the country, if we're all too scared to stand up for what we believe in, right? If none of us are bold enough just to say Merry Christmas because we don't want to offend anyone, and we just kind of take the easy path, which I believe is what a lot of the companies have done, right? There's some really large companies who the CEO might be a Christian who goes to church every single Sunday and maybe holds Bible studies at his or her house, and yet they have this big corporation. They just don't want to offend anyone, so they take the route. And that's what scares me. If everyone follows that path, all of a sudden now you and I are on the way out, and our kids are now the leaders. And like, it's just like, man, we've kicked God, Christianity, Christmas. We've kicked all of it completely out of our society. And boom, all of a sudden now we have no freedom.
I believe it stems from a place of trying to get rid of religion altogether in the country and making us more like Europe. I completely believe that. But like what you were talking about, I mean, that's the inclusiveness argument, the idea that, and it plays on us as Americans. It plays on us because we have a highly developed sense of decency that as Americans we do. Most Americans, we don't want to gratuitously offend other Americans. And so the inclusiveness argument is what works for us, but really the argument is preposterous. It's crazy because who really is being offended when I wish them Merry Christmas? Is it non-Christians? I mean, that doesn't hold any water. It just doesn't work. Irving Berlin, the guy who wrote White Christmas, was an American Jew. And he did it because he was celebrating what is a national holiday in America. It is a national holiday is Christmas. Now you may not believe in Jesus. You may not believe in that whole story, and that's fine. That's totally fine. You're allowed to not believe that. I'm not mad at you if you don't. But when you don't wish Merry Christmas, by not wishing somebody Merry Christmas, I believe you're not being inclusive when you don't do it. I believe that it's the exact opposite. You're deliberately excluding people from a national holiday. I mean, even if we remove the religious side to it, it's a national holiday. It is an American holiday. It is a patriotic part of America. It just is, until it's not. It is. It's a national holiday. And so when you don't wish somebody Merry Christmas, I believe at that point you're being non-inclusive because you just left them out of a national holiday for our country. And even if Christmas wasn't a national holiday, I still want people to be able to have Christmas parties. I want schools to continue to have Christmas vacations, but just because maybe you don't personally celebrate Christmas, why would you want to drop the word from public discourse? It doesn't make any sense. That word is not offensive. It just isn't. It doesn't speak negatively to anybody. Offensive words, we know those offensive words. They're, words that would be widely considered vulgar or words that are meant to offend, to knock somebody down. Christmas is none of those things. It's not. And it's not offensive. The fact is that we need to, I believe, chill out and just understand that I'm going to say Merry Christmas and you can say Happy Holidays back to me and I'm going to smile and be excited that you did. But, whenever I watch my Hallmark movies right now, and you can make fun of me all you want. I watch them all the time.
I tear up every time.
Those cheesy movies, I love them to death. Oh, I love it. But the fact is that it's Hallmark Christmas movies. When I listen to the music on the radio, it's Christmas music, and I'm going to celebrate Christmas. And if you want to say Happy Holidays to me, that's totally fine. I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to be mad. But please don't. Let's stop being and this really, I believe, goes beyond Christmas, but we're using it as an example. Don't be offended yourself if somebody says it to you and you're a Happy Holidays person. Don't. Stop it. Stop being offended. Stop looking to be offended. Stop looking to be offended. Was that person trying to offend you when they said that? No. Were they being malicious? Has anybody ever said Merry Christmas to you in a malicious way? Like, Merry Christmas. Ah! Like, it's not a malicious thing. It's not intended to be that. So let's just remember, let's take a chill pill. Let's understand we have a lot of freedoms. We live in an awesome society that gives you the ability, a society that was started with the basis of you having the freedom to choose. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe those people were moving here with the freedom to choose to follow Jesus the way they wanted to, but it was society that was started with the freedom to choose not to if you wanted to. That is the patriotic country you live in, is that you get a chance to choose either way. But here in this patriotic country, our national holiday is Christmas, and I'm going to say Merry Christmas to you, Joe. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, brother. Speaking of that, we'll issue the challenge, and great job summing that up. And reason we want to keep this one a little bit shorter is we want you to go spend time with your loved ones and to be loving. And the word Christmas and even this podcast and even my little rant, none of that is ever meant to be offensive. Jesus was never meant to be offensive. The word that always comes to mind is love.
Yep.
And the challenge that I wrote down here is if you are a Christian, and maybe even if you're not, just don't be afraid to say Merry Christmas, because you aren't going to offend anyone. And you've nailed all the points about vice versa. And I think even companies, if you're a leader of a small business, don't be afraid to say Merry Christmas if you believe in it, and don't be afraid that you might offend someone. I personally I don't worry about it. And if I do, because I did receive some negative emails back from that, as you can imagine. And man, they all were looking for a fight. And guess what I gave them? I gave them so much love, and I wasn't obnoxious loving. I was just so kind, and just, man, thank you so much for your candid feedback. I really appreciate it. I mean, America's great because of people like you, that we all have the ability to voice our opinions. I mean, just gave them love and just said, hey, I'll keep you in my thoughts and prayers. If I can ever help you out or better serve you, let me know. And that was literally my reply to everyone who came back with something negative. But that was like maybe 4% of the 1,000 emails I got back. It was so small. So my point is, don't ever be afraid, be bold. And more importantly, I think a lot of the issues in America stem from the family. They stem from parents. I mean, I don't think anyone could disagree with that. And it's our job as parents to help. We can't control our kids and everything they do. We can't control their choices, but we can help mold them. As long as they're in our house, it is our duty to mold them. And I made this mistake before in my past with 3 years, the past couple of years of letting it be more about the gifts and not reminding our kids about what Christmas really means. And sometimes we like, oh yeah, we're going to do it after we open gifts, and then we don't. And this year I would challenge all of you, and this is a challenge for me as well, right here today, Christmas, when we're doing this, or when you guys are hearing this, is to be bold in our faith and to remind our kids what this is really all about, and to be giving and loving and just generous, and to give to other families and churches who are doing big things like yours, Johnny, and just not to be afraid to remind them, hey, this is what we're doing before we get all jacked up on eggnog and high on awesome gifts that we're receiving, is to remind our kids, our families, our close friends, hey, here's what this day is really all about. And ultimately, man, just to be loving. And I think that was really it. Those are my three things: to worship, pray, and just give thanks to God. Before we go down the crazy fun Christmas path. So,
what do you want to get this year? Let's dive into the really important thing.
Man,
what present are you looking for this year? What are you looking?
I hope I get nothing. And I mean it serious. I think last year I got 2 gifts, and I told everyone, like, I am so blessed, and I'm not just saying that corny. I have everything I need. And if I need a gadget, you can see all the fishing rods and stuff. I mean, I got plenty of stuff right now. How about you? Anything in particular?
I want a pair of boots. I want to get a pair of Red Wing boots. Ooh. That's what I want. Yeah, I want some Iron Rangers. And so, yeah, that's what I want. Last year I got me a Daiwa Fuego, and that's my favorite reel now. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm, in your 40s, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I got 2 gifts. Yeah, I got 3 things. I
love handwritten cards from my little girls, and I use, like, my parents and my wife will get me Amazon gift cards. I buy tons of books. I'm looking at a couple of them over here. I'm more of a book guy. Keep it simple. So
yeah, my favorite part is just being able to spend time with family. My mom, every year whenever I was a kid, we had a couple of years that were really hard on us financially, and I remember one year we didn't have money for a tree, and my mom just got some red and green ribbon, and we thumbtacked all of our ornaments to the wall in the shape of a tree. with that red and green ribbon. And now God's blessed us and done a really, it's amazing. And so on our table at Christmas are 2 candlesticks, and wrapped around the base of one is a red ribbon from that year and one's a green ribbon. And we make fun of my mom because she's cheesy and overly sentimental. Because she'd be like, do you remember, every year she's like, do you remember that year? I'm like, Mom, yes, because you reminded me last year and in the 34 other years before that. Yeah. We joke around with her, but it is amazing just remembering like where God has brought us from. Like even on that year when we were struggling, and I was a little kid, and I remember I got one present that year, and it was not a big, I got a little pocket knife, and that was the only thing I got that year. And we didn't have a Christmas tree, and we didn't have a big dinner or anything. Like I remember all that. But I was still happy, and God still blessed us in that time, in that season. We still had a great Christmas. And I can look back and see all that now. And so, it is what I believe we need to remember this holidays. Like, don't be offended. Look at the good things we have, man. God has blessed you. It's a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Love it. Well, guys, if you're still listening, we love you. We wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. And if this is something you think one of your friends or family members or coworkers might like to hear, maybe someone who has been offended on either side, we'd love for you to share this with them. That means a lot to us, is to share it. And any way you can, obviously, leave reviews, comments. And if you want to reach out to myself or Johnny, my email is joe@saltstrong.com. I would love any and all feedback. And you have my promise, I will not get offended, even if you send me tons of curse words like a couple of you did that one Christmas. What about you, Johnny?
Yeah, you can email Johnny@discoverfamilychurch.com, or just go visit discoverfamilychurch.com. Come on out if you live in the Lakeland area.
Yes.
We'd love to have you.
Yes. All right, guys, that is it. I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas day, a Christmas break filled with lots of love and joy. We will see you on the next episode.
Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in